Which Trump seems the most likely to take their place in their father's empire? Does Black Sheep Mary Trump have any political aspirations of her own? The answer may surprise you. Here's the inside story of the Trump family's future political plans. Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., has sparked conversation about his potential run for office, and many feel that he'd be a shoo-in should he move in that direction. Political strategist Seth Weathers, who worked with Trump Sr. in Georgia, felt that with his father's clout behind him, Don Jr. would be a success. Weathers told NY1 News, "Name one person who could beat Trump Jr. with Trump Sr. pushing him through the Republican primary. It's just not possible."
My best friend, my father, Donald Trump.
When Don Jr. wrote his book, Triggered: How the Left Thrives on Hate and Wants to Silence Us, The Guardian pointed out that the text acts as one of the most successful campaign strategies of any Republican candidate. This is because, oddly enough, Don Jr. actually connects with the MAGA group even more successfully than his father did. Senior advisor Jason Miller told the New York Times Magazine, "Don Jr. represents the emotional center of the MAGA universe. Since Don Jr. aligns more closely with the sense of conservatism that the Republican Party likes, he could reasonably expect a successful campaign should he choose to move in that direction. The question is, does he want that?" By all accounts, Donald Trump Jr. could face a successful political run, and unsurprisingly, he has hinted at this possibility. On October 24, 2020, Don Jr. posted a photo to Instagram of himself standing in front of a banner that read, "Don Jr. 2024. His caption was deflective, but the simple fact that he posted the photo indicates some interest. The younger Trump wrote, "This was a sign I saw up at the Fallon, Nevada livestock auction. This will make the libheads explode. To whomever made that, thanks for the compliment. But let's get through 2020 with a big win first." Interestingly, Don Jr.'s Instagram post came right as his father, Donald Trump, was nearing the end of his contentious run against Joe Biden. So it's likely that as Don Jr. saw the writing on the wall in terms of his father's loss, he began testing the waters for his own campaign. Don Jr. certainly has what it takes to convince the Republican Party, at least when it comes to the primaries. In a survey completed by The Economist, Don Jr. scored a 71% likability score among Republican polls, but he can't rest on his laurels just yet. Among Americans in general, Don Jr. only scored at 36% for favorability. He likely has what it takes when it comes to Republicans, but for the country at large, it's tough to say how Don Jr. would fare. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Donald Trump Jr.'s fiancée, is no stranger to a political lifestyle. Prior to allying with the Trump family, Guilfoyle was married to Gavin Newsom, the Democratic governor of California, from 2001 to 2006. Not only was it a new relationship, it was an entire shift in political parties. Guilfoyle was a prosecuting attorney in San Francisco and then went on to pursue a career in media. She worked for Fox News as a co-host on the show The Five, but was prematurely let go by the media source, The New Yorker notes, after an assistant accused her of inappropriate practices and sexual harassment claims. Guilfoyle then did her part for Donald Trump's campaign by working as a fundraiser, and the experience is something that she could use to leverage for future political roles. In fact, Republican insiders guess that she and Don Jr. might be planning on taking up prominent positions within the Republican National Committee in order to pave the way for long-term political goals. An insider told CNN, Don Jr. and Kimberly have an eye on the RNC, through themselves taking over or somebody close to them taking over. Considering Don Jr.'s likelihood of running, it's equally plausible that Guilfoyle would consider a future in politics too.
The best is yet to come.
Of any of Donald Trump's children, Ivanka Trump has been the most talked about when it comes to a future in politics. This was because she actually worked in the White House while her dad was president, while other Trump family members were mostly seen endorsing Trump on his campaign trail. But Ivanka still might have to strategize a political path before she can put in her bid for the presidency, likely through a seat in the Senate. A Trump advisor told Vanity Fair in late 2020 she wants to run, but she can't run until she holds elected office. office because she's not her father. At the end of the day, Ivanka was only an employee at the Trump organization. Ivanka certainly has the most promise of anyone in the Trump family, and her time in the White House only primed the pump for her. Political advisor Jason Miller said to Politico, "Ivanka only got into politics to help her father and help his agenda, but what's now clear is that Ivanka is a political powerhouse in her own right." With all of this speculation, when is Ivanka planning on making a move? All that we've heard about her since leaving the White House is that she moved to Florida. For those hoping Ivanka will take a political stance, a Republican official reminded Politico she's a Trump and the Trumps move on their own timetables. Jared Kushner has been busy with a pending memoir and a new private equity firm since his time as a senior advisor to Donald Trump. By all accounts, Kushner seems like the least likely Trump to pursue a career in politics. However, Kushner's future plans tie into his past in the White House in an uncomfortable way. Speaking of Kushner and Ivanka Trump, an insider told Politico, a big part of their time in the White House was connecting with Fortune 100 CEOs, but especially in areas where they were interested in or had future business. More so than most in the administration, they sought to capitalize on the social aspect of things. But Kushner, like his wife, has been seen unwinding in Florida with his kids. An insider told People, Jared's spending a lot more time with his family because over the last 4 years, that was something neither of them could do as much as they wanted to. Jared will say, "The nice thing about Miami is the moment you stop working, you're on vacation." Nevertheless, Kushner was careful to create solid connections in the White House that would serve him later in work outside of politics. Eric Trump seemed like a compelling candidate for a while during Donald Trump's presidency. In October 2020, as it became evident that Trump would lose to Joe Biden, Eric teased the idea of carrying on the Trump torch in the political arena. As Forbes pointed out, Eric liked a tweet that pitched the idea of him running in 2024. Many took this as a foreshadowing of an ambitious journey ahead for the younger Trump. However, of any of Trump's brood, as time has revealed, Eric is the least likely to pursue any future political plans. There has been almost no indication since Trump left the White House that Eric plans on following in his father's footsteps. In fact, Eric has lifted the veil on some of the Trump family's alleged schemes during Trump's time in office, and before that, showed he's not trying to look good for potential voters. On the podcast Uncut with the former NFL player Jay Cutler, Eric got shockingly candid about the allegations that the Trumps colluded with Russia in order to secure his father's position in the White House. Eric said on the podcast,
"We weren't smart enough to collude with Russia. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know what a delegate was."
For Eric, the familiar pre-political life is better, and he still serves as the executive vice president of the Trump Organization. While Eric Trump doesn't seem keen on a political future, his wife Lara Trump might not be so quick to shut it down. Reports speculated that she might try for a bid in 2022 for the North Carolina Senate, but that didn't come to fruition. Nevertheless, Lara did get her feet wet while father-in-law Donald Trump was in office. In 2020, she worked as a senior advisor on Trump's campaign, and even though she didn't end up running for Senate, many took her seriously for the position. Campaign advisor Mercedes Schlapp told the New York Times, "Lara is very charismatic. She understands retail politics well and has a natural instinct for politics. In North Carolina in particular, she's a household name and people know her. She worked really hard on the campaign and was very involved in a lot of decisions throughout." It's worth adding that Lara has the name for the job. Joe Gruters, chairman of Florida's Republican Party, told Fox 13, "The Trump brand and Trump family is probably the strongest brand that's ever existed within the base of the party. So it's not entirely off the table, but in the meantime, Lara is certainly getting her fair share of airtime working as a contributor for Fox News. Whether she plans to stay put or venture on to more political pastures is yet to be determined." Tiffany Trump was one of the lesser seen of the Trump family while Donald Trump was in office. The daughter to actor Marla Maples, Tiffany made headlines for her engagement to Michael Boulos, an heir to a billion-dollar fortune who proposed to Tiffany in the White House Rose Garden. Tiffany graduated from Georgetown Law School in 2020 and hasn't been explicitly clear about what she plans on doing next. But this could also be an advantage because she has avoided much of the turbulence of the rest of the Trumps and their entanglement both with the family business and with politics. The fact that she wasn't raised with the rest of Trump's children also functions as an asset should she want to forge her own path. She can't, of course, escape that famous last name. Tiffany herself is well aware of her differences among the Trump family. In a 2013 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Tiffany said,
"Since I have grown up on the West Coast, it definitely is different than all of them growing up on the East Coast."
So what will she do with this advantageous separation? Only time will tell. Another Trump who emerged during Donald Trump's presidency was his niece, psychologist and author Mary Trump. Mary was a vocal and tireless dissenter of her uncle and wasted no time writing Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man in 2020, and The Reckoning, Our Nation's Trauma and Finding a Way to Heal in 2021.
We're talking about a man who I do not believe could function in the real world on his own.
Thanks to her contentious relatives, Mary became an overnight celebrity and a recognized face on news outlets when her uncle was a theme in news cycles, which it seemed he always was. With all this experience and exposure, Mary has admitted that she's toyed with the idea of a political future for herself. During an interview with The Advocate, Mary was asked if she would ever run. Mary told the outlet, "I can't say that I would never do it on the one hand, but on the other hand, I really think there is something to be said for staying outside of politics and having a voice. But that's a question that I honestly don't have an answer for, at least not yet. Sounds like a promising possibility." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.